Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to session number 2 of A+ Instruction, AutoGrade, and Assignments with MuseClass. For those of you that couldn't join us last week or maybe haven't had a chance to watch the recording, my name is Chase Banks. I'm on the Hal Leonard Education team, and just so happy to have you all here with us this evening. Before I turn it over to Bob, I just wanted to take a minute to share the MuseClass website in the chat. I'll go ahead and throw that in there right now. That's where you can sign up for your free teacher account if you haven't done so already. And one other reminder that after the third class meeting of this course, that's next Tuesday, August 20th at 5 p.m. Eastern, that's when you'll receive an email with your PD Hours certificate for participating in this course. If you happen to sign up for one of our other courses, either the K-5 curriculum planning course or the course on music arranging, you'll receive a separate email with PD Hours for those courses. If you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to support@museclass.com. I'll throw that email in the chat here in a second as well. But I'll also be in the background throughout the session today to answer any questions here in the moment alongside our clinician. So without further ado, I will turn it over to our clinician, Bob Chreste. Bob, thank you so much for being here again.
Absolutely. Glad to be back. And thank you to everybody that is here for week 2. Hopefully most of you were able to catch last week's session where we did a lot of the nuts and bolts of getting up and running for both teachers and students. Today, we're going to dig into a few more things about all of that. So for those of you that were not around last week, welcome. Just a little bit about me. My name is Bob Chreste. I'm the Customer Experience Manager here with MuseClass. I've been involved with MuseClass since the initial creation of it back in 2020. I was a high school band director for 16 years. I currently do a lot of arranging, consulting, and adjudicating. I'm the assistant brass caption head with the Bluecoats, who just won the DCI World Championship this past weekend. I've also taught with Carolina Crown, Santa Clara Vanguard, and the Cadets. I was in Blast many, many moons ago when I was much younger. And as it says down there again, I've been involved with MuseClass since the very beginning, before we ever even knew what it was going to be. And so it's been a fun 4 years getting it to this point, and looking forward to the future. So a little bit about what we're going to be talking about in today's session. We're going to be talking both about AutoGrade, which is our AI assessment tool that can hopefully make things significantly easier for you, and also hopefully for some of your students. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about on the marching band side of things, because at least for if we have any high school directors in here, it's something you're absolutely dealing with right now. And I think for those of you, if you're like, I teach orchestra or choir or elementary or something else like that, there are probably still some things you could get out of it on the marching band thing once we get talking into that. So let's go ahead and get started. So today, as we said, we're going to be talking about AutoGrade. And as I'm sure many of you know, there are a few different tools that are very similar out there in the space. And we're trying really hard to make sure ours is the best. And there's a number of things that I think that we offer that some of the others don't offer. So it's our own AI assessment technology. You see a couple screenshots that I took from my phone earlier today on some different things. And the music there is actually some of the music from our closer this past season with the Bluecoats. And so it will automatically assess both pitch and rhythm to determine the overall accuracy. As all of these submissions are done from students all the time, it all just anonymously gets put into this machine learning engine to help it continually try to improve the quality of assessment. I know that 10, 15 years ago, when I was still teaching and using some of the other platforms out there, there were sometimes just running into issues with just the accuracy, where I'd be listening to it, and the note would be marked as incorrect, and I would listen to it and it was correct, or vice versa. And so we're constantly using, thank you, James, we are constantly using this machine learning to help improve the accuracy, because I know if you all are trusting us to make sure that it's accurate, we need to make sure it actually is. And then as far as additional features, all of our team here with Hal Leonard and Muse are working hard to continually add new features, improve the quality, add additional tools into all of it, just to, again, make your experience even better. So that's just a little bit about AutoGrade. And as Chase mentioned earlier, if you have any tool or any questions during this, feel free to just type them in there. I may be able to get to them. If not, Chase will be able to answer it there in the background if you have any questions about this. So moving right along. So some of the different use cases you can have for AutoGrade. And I think one of the easiest things, it allows you to do assessment on your time, rather than setting up a schedule before or after school, or having an assistant of yours try to do pass offs or something maybe during classes, so they're unable to help like with the students directly, and they're instead just kind of doing tests or something like that with their students. It allows the students to be able to do the recording on their time, and you to review their assignments and the grading on your schedule, rather than taking time at school before or afterwards. We can do music pass-offs, scale pass-offs, all kinds of different, anything that you can think of to be able to do that. We have the ability to do. I know that when we've talked with a lot of different directors, both band and orchestra, that with some of the other options out there, and that we're trying to do some of the same thing, is assisting with contest music selection, knowing that there are certain songs that are already available in the library that have AutoGrade built in, ready to go, often made my job easier during the spring, once we were starting to do our concert literature for our festivals, that having that extra tool just saved a ton of time. And we'll talk a little bit more about how to use some of that as we go through some of this today. But that was one of the biggest things for me as a teacher, was finding music where I had additional tools available to assess the students and help them with their learning. Obviously, for rehearsal preparation, there are some other tips and tricks that I used back in the day. Is I would tell my students, if I would pick music that was available from an assessment catalog, I would tell my students, I was like, we're not going to work on measures 17 to 34 until everybody has passed this off with at least a 90 on the auto assessment software. And so, it only took a couple of times of there being maybe 2 or 3 kids that did not have it passed off in time. And I'd be like, all right, sorry, we're not going to work on it in class today. We still got a few kids that haven't passed it off yet. And then some peer pressure sets in. And then the next day, the students come back having passed it off correctly. And then all of a sudden, those early times during the spring semester, when you're learning the music, the students have already figured out the notes and rhythms. So us as educators can focus on tone quality. We can focus on balance. We can focus on articulation. We can focus on matching style. All of these other things that early in my teaching career, we weren't able to do, because we were waiting for the trumpets to learn their notes, and the clarinets were sitting there patiently, and the flutes were sitting there kind of patiently, and the percussionists were doing who knows what in the back of the room. So with this, it made things significantly easier for the students to show up prepared. We often tell them, hey, make sure we're going to be working on this coming up soon. And then, of course, they don't, except for the really, really good kids. And so it made things so much easier. And when the kids realized that, hey, it's early January and we can actually play through some of our music, because the students actually prepared it at home, and we could start doing things from the very first time we play, a chunk of music, and we get through it, and there's basically the right notes and rhythms. And then the kids are like, oh, this is a lot more fun now. And so it just kind of starts to snowball after that, with the kids understanding why and how much more positive their experience is in class, because they're actually prepared, because there's a tool to help them prepare. And then finally, another great use case with this is sight reading, where you can make up your own exams or anything you want if you have any type of music, and you can create it in MuseScore, which is free. And you can limit the number of attempts that the student has, and those are available. We talked about that a little bit last week. in the additional settings on step 2 of the assignment creation process. You can limit the number of attempts. By default, it is set to unlimited. And if you can change it to either 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And so the students will have a handful of chances if you want to put a little bit more performance pressure on them. If you want to make it really challenging, just give them one shot and you create the music. They have no idea what it is. It'll pull up on the screen. They'll get one shot, play through it, and it automatically submits their score. So you can use AutoGrade for a variety of different tools other than its original intention. And again, if you have any questions on this stuff, please feel free to just throw something in the chat. So let's talk a little bit more with Hal Leonard being part of all of this. You know, there's obviously a massive music catalog that comes along with MuseClass. And so you'll be able to see if you, once you log into your account and you go to the music catalog tab on the top, there's a number of different filters on the left side of the screen. You can see the AutoGrade is one of those options. And you can see here that I have that selected. You can then choose by method books, concert band, pep band, anything else in there you want. You can just narrow down to see what's currently available, and new music is always being added because there's a massive catalog that Hal Leonard has. And so one of the great things on here that we've talked about previously is the fact that essential elements is included. So if we do have any middle school teachers or elementary that may do instrumental, access to essential elements, and every single line in the book with AutoGrade access is available for your students for free for the entire 24-25 school year, which is an amazing tool. I wish they had it when I was still teaching. And so, as I said there, and then we're also just continuously adding more music all the time. So there's a lot of great options in there in the music catalog to be able to pick from. And you'll notice on the screen there, it has the green AutoGrade logo next to it if AutoGrade is included. We do have a number of songs that AutoGrade is not included with it. So please make sure that you're looking for that logo. But if you use the filter there on the left side of the screen, that will easily get you to everything that has AutoGrade access to it. So here's where things start to get a little interesting. So AutoGrade, one of the requirements for it, though, if you want to create something on your own or to use something that you already have, everything must be in MuseScore format, which is MSCZ format. There's a number of ways to make this happen. Either, obviously, the most easy is just write it in MuseScore. If you're wanting to create some type of exercise or fundamental skill or something like that you want your students to work on, if you just do it in MuseScore, and then everything is going to work seamlessly. However, if you do use one of the other notation platforms out there, then what you will need to do is save it as an XML file. And through that, since MuseScore is free and open source, that you can then just open the XML file in MuseScore and then just save it as a MuseScore file. So that makes things significantly easier. And I believe here in the near future, we're going to be sending out some emails to help assist people with this, just so everybody knows how easy it can be. So yeah, I know there's different versions of XML. There's .xml, there's .musicxml, there's .mxl as well. And I believe all of those will open in MuseScore. And then, as I said, you can just then save it as a MuseScore file. Talking about formatting with that, I know that depending upon what other platform you come from may determine the accuracy of the formatting. As far as notes and rhythms, everything should be correct, no matter which of the other notation softwares you may want to convert from. Usually it's the text that ends up getting a little wonky during the conversion process, whether it's the title size or if there are titles on secondary pages of a score or something like that, or the composer, arranger, subtitles, things like that, other things like that. That's the stuff that sometimes the XML conversion makes things a little strange. And one of the easiest things that I found is just delete the text. If it's not really necessary, then it doesn't matter. And the other side of things is if the students are using their own music to perform from, like they have their music stand at home and they have, whatever song they're playing and they have their phone up there on their stand with them, they can either follow along on their phone, on their device, or Chromebook or tablet, or they can just simply use the music that they were given in class. Chris, I see here, let's see, how do you access MuseScore within MuseClass? You can't access it directly within MuseClass. You'll just have to, if you go to the Muse Hub, that's where you can go and download MuseScore. And from that point, you'll have the full access to all of the notation software and tools that are available in MuseScore. And then within your own your library in MuseClass, all you would do is just upload the MuseScore file. So yeah, you can't, the two don't talk to one another yet. Hopefully someday they will. But all you need to do is just in My Library, click on the Upload tab on the left side of the screen, and then just upload the MuseScore file that you created from MuseScore. So hopefully that answers your question there, Chris. So yeah, as I was saying, the formatting is not super important other than maybe trying to get some of the text out of the way. Because when the students view, I believe as I had on a couple of screens earlier, you can see that it's all horizontal. We usually show 2 lines at a time, and the music will scroll all the way through. That blue cursor goes across the screen. As the top line is done, it moves up, so that lower line becomes the top line, and the next line of music is there, and so on and so forth. So you can tell that just the overall formatting on how it looks on a sheet of paper or something doesn't really matter as much when we're focusing on the AutoGrade use cases. So hopefully that will save a good amount of time for people that want to convert that way. I know, especially with marching band coming up, which we'll be talking about here shortly, whether it's your marching band show music or anything else, can hopefully help a ton with that. Also, I know that MuseScore has the ability to convert. They have their own process within the MuseScore software, the ability to convert from a PDF file into a MuseScore file. And that functionality has existed for many, many years now. What I will say about it is if you're going to go that route, try to do it for simpler files. If you're trying to take some big score of something and expect it to pick up every single tiny detail and everything like that, don't expect it to do that. But if you're looking for simpler things like a scale sheet or other things like that, that should absolutely work, so that you can go from a PDF file that you may already have, and then all of a sudden it shows up as a MuseScore file. Then you upload it to your library in MuseClass, and now you have something ready for pass-offs or grading or whatever else you would want to use it for. And so, as I mentioned, we're always just trying to improve some of this, which includes the conversion process. There are certain things that we have to take into account from the other companies. But as I mentioned at first, the easiest thing is just write it in MuseScore and you'll be good to go. Again, if I know the conversion process, this is one of the things that can get a little bit more challenging. So again, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and either myself or Chase will try to answer them for you. So let's talk about creating an AutoGrade assignment. And if you do have multiple screens open, or if you want to just listen to me and not look at our screen, and you want to open your MuseClass account on your computer, feel free to do that. Last week, we talked about getting set up. We talked about creating a class. We talked about video and audio assignments. And as I mentioned today, we're going to talk more about AutoGrade. So you can see here, you'll just simply click on AutoGrade once you click Create Assignment. And then when you get to Continue, it's the same thing as before, where you will put who gets the assignment. It's which classes, which instruments, and which students will be receiving the assignment. And then you can see on the screenshot I have here on part 2 of the assignment creation process. It's similar. Obviously, we have the assignment name, we have the instructions, and this is where you will add the AutoGrade file. You can either, where it says select AutoGrade file, you'll do that, and it will take you to your library, whether you have files to use AutoGrade with that came from the music catalog on MuseClass, or if it's files that you created on your own, whether it was in MuseScore or you converted via XML to MuseScore. You can select those files, and you'll see that the file I have selected here was that Blue Coats excerpt from our closer this past season. Once it's there, you can preview it if you want to. If you need to remind yourself what measure numbers you want to assign, you would simply just click on the preview button right there. If you have any other attachments for whatever that you may need, you can always add those. You can see that by default, it has it at the performance speed. If you want to change that, make it a little faster or slower, you can just drag that slider either direction to help with that. And then you'll simply just set where you want the assignment to begin and then where you want the assignment to end. And so for this one, it will start at measure 10, and notice where it says ending after. And that means that, so for example, if you want the students to play 10 measures, you'll start at measure 1. You want the last measure they play, that's the number you'll put in there. If you put 11, because you want them to go from 1 to 11, then with the way it's set up, it'll actually make the student play all the way through measure 11. So that's why it says ending after measure there. Below that, you'll see down here the advanced options that we were talking about before. If you want to create something to make it more like a test or something like that, or sight reading as we were referring to earlier, you could do that. If you leave the start measure and ending measures blank, by default, it will assign the entire song. So if, for example, if you're just doing scales, something like that, you do not need to put in the measure numbers in there, like from measure 1 to measure 5. You do not need to do any of that. Just leave it blank and it will automatically assign the entire thing to them. So just a little bit of a time saver for you. Now, when it's talking about another just good information, hopefully to pass along, is when it talks about the playback speed. It's important that when you create the MuseScore file, or if you use a different platform, it's important that you have a tempo marking in there, because that's where it's drawing that information from. So if there is no tempo marking, I believe the default is 120, I believe. If not that, it's probably 100. So it's one of those two things in there. Remind me how to create assignment. Do I need to have students enrolled first? Hey, Matthew, you do not need to have students enrolled in order to create an assignment. You do have to create a class, though. And once you've created the class, on the top left, once you're in that class, on the top left, it'll have assignments. There's like a menu of like 4 or 5 different things there, and there should be a big green button on the right side that says create assignment. Got it. Awesome. Good job, Matt. And so yeah, back to the tempo thing. Like I said, I believe it's either 120 or 100 if the file itself does not have a tempo on it. So it's important that when you are creating it to have a tempo already on the file. And then obviously on the next step is the when part of the assignment creation process. That's when you put when it will go out to the students and when it will be due for the students. Now you'll notice on this screen, different to the ones we talked about last week with audio and video. Audio and video last week, we talked about the ability to change the grading type between numeric, pass, fail, and rubric. For AutoGrade, it's numeric is the only option. They'll get a percentage out of 100 based on their accuracy of their performance of the notes and rhythms. So that's one reason why you do not see that listed on this screen here. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to let us know. And then, so talking about what you will see eventually once it's time. So your student has done everything on their device. If assuming you just gave them, left it at the default of unlimited attempts, they will choose which one they want to submit, and they will click that. And then you will see it on the screen in here. And you'll notice there at the top, there's this bar here where you'll be able to just click on the play button, and you'll be able to listen to their submission. You'll be able to see their submission, and you can tell that I played a wrong note right there. I don't know how it's showing up on you all side there, but just the same way that it shows up on the student side, the notes will be purple if they are performed incorrectly, and they will the student can then tap on the note and it will tell them what they did wrong, whether they played a wrong note or they played it at the wrong time. And I'll go back a little bit earlier on here from the screen. So you can see up here, this top version is what it looked like at the beginning before I did the attempt. And then so I purposefully played that note wrong. I played a B flat instead of a B natural. And you notice that it is purple there. And if you want to see mistakes, so if I tap on that, the screen, that little window in the middle goes away. And if I tap on that purple note, and then it will say, you know, you played a wrong note right here. And just so they understand if it's is it a rhythm thing or a pitch thing. Yeah, so that same thing is basically what shows up here on the grading screen. Obviously, you'll see all the other students in your class. You can give them feedback as well. And one of the things that you'll notice here is the grade is not finalized, if you will. You'll still see that green submit button here in the top right corner still has to be clicked before the grade is final for the student. And we do this to ensure that you are happy with the assignment. I know one of the things that, as I mentioned earlier, like I would tell the students, you have to pass it off with a 90 for us to be able to start working on it like that. I did the same things when I was teaching marching band, and we would do our pass offs with that. And I would tell them, like, all right, you know, here at the end of the second week of school, you have to have a 92 on the opener to be able to march with your mouthpiece at halftime. And so that 92, if they got like a 92 or higher, for what goes into the actual grade book would be a 100. So you'll see on this screen right here that because of that one purple note, it automatically gave me a 97 because that's how the math worked out. So it gave me a 97, but as the teacher, and I'm listening to it, I'm like, cool, all you had to get was a 95, and then I'll give you 100. All you have to do is just go in and type in 100 and then submit, and now that grade becomes a 100 instead of a 97. It all depends upon how you as a teacher want to use the automatic assessment. You can either choose to have it do 100% of the work for you, or you can have it do most of the work for you. It's all kind of up to you. So are there any other questions here on the AutoGrade stuff before we switch over to some marching band stuff? I'm just going to see what we have here.
Hey, Bob, I've got a quick question here in the Q&A from Sean. I want to see if you could maybe take a crack at it, and if not, we'll find out the answer and get back to Sean as soon as we can.
It says individual books are not offered in the music catalog. I'm not completely sure what you're saying, Sean. I'm going to go back here. So right here, like on this screen, this was just a screenshot from a couple hours ago, where you can see which filters I set, and then I typed in the search bar at the top here. And then with the essential, read the question before. I don't see the question.
Yeah, you might have to click on answered within the Q&A section, Bob, but essentially Sean is saying that for oboe and F horn that there are A-B pages in the EE books, and essentially Sean wants to assign the oboe part but doesn't see the oboe specific etudes or maybe the A-B pages.
Got it. Okay. So to the best of my understanding is if you want to use essential elements, I mean, ideally it would assume that you have a set of it for your students, or the student has the book. If you go in and so for example, on the screen that you see here now, and I wanted to add essential elements band book 1, I would click on that, and then I would add it to my library. And then when I go into selecting or creating an assignment, and then I want to do an AutoGrade assignment, and then select the AutoGrade file, kind of just going through here, going through select AutoGrade file, I would select that book. And then you should see on that screen, towards the bottom of it, there's a list of all of the different exercises in that book. I'm going to see if I can make this all work correctly on my screen right now. Yeah, okay, there's that. There's that. I'm going to try to do this very quickly so I can fully understand exactly what's you're seeing on your side. Okay. Yep. Okay. I get that. Let me do this. Okay. And this may be something that we can discuss with our team. All right, so create assignment. Okay. All right, so let's do that. I'm getting there. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So if you go to my library, I'm going to actually see if I can switch my screen over so you can see what I'm seeing right now. Okay. So I am now logged in right now, and I'll go back a screen. So I'm in my library. I clicked on EE Band Book 1. There's the oboe like you were talking about. And then I can, there's all of the different exercises in here. I mean, how many we got? 180 files, even more than that. So a whole bunch. I would, through here, whichever line it is that you want your students to have an assignment from, you would select that and then go through the create assignment process from there. So I hope that answers your question. Let me go back to this. Hopefully that answers some of that, Sean. All right. Okay. All right. So hopefully that was able to show you some of that. If not, let's see. I see another thing. No, it doesn't. Okay, then I'm.
Hey, Bob, it looks like we've got some other folks helping out here in the chat. It looks like we just don't have all of the EE exercises quite yet in MuseClass. We have a majority, but there are still a few exercises that might be missing. So to answer that question, they may not all be there quite yet, but we have addressed this with our team, and we'll definitely get as many added to the platform as we can.
Got it. Okay. So, with that, then we will, we talked about that. Let's move on into some of the marching stuff. And again, just trying to help simplify this. Hopefully there are some high school band directors in the room now that are currently in their marching season. And they will hopefully get some good use out of this. As mentioned, I do teach with the Blue Coats. We've used the MuseClass for 3 years. The Blue Devils have also used MuseClass for the last 3 years, as well as just hundreds of other schools across the country. And there's a number of different ways that we can use it. And so one of the first ways, since we were just talking about AutoGrade, is we'll just sort of continue with that. And we mentioned before just the ability of having the students prepared for their music ahead of time, or doing it for pass-offs. Sometimes I know a lot of you, there's maybe some type of audition process for spots, as far as like primary and maybe secondary or alternate marchers or whatever. Everybody kind of has different terminology or different plans on how that's all set up. You could incorporate some of this into that audition process. If you happen to do like spot challenges or anything like that, it could obviously assist with some of that as well. And, whether it's through the marching show music, whether it's something that you have, purchased from Hal Leonard, or you have your own custom arranger, or you bought from somewhere else, if you're able to get access to the XML files, then you can easily turn those into pass-offs via AutoGrade. Other easy things would be either like your school fight song or your school alma mater or anything like that. Those are usually a little bit significantly easier than actual marching show music or anything like that, as well as any type of stand tune music that you may have. It's just a great opportunity to help prepare your students to be successful on all of that. Some other things that we do, I know that several of the different drum corps, as well as a number of other marching arts organizations, use it primarily for video assignments. And so first we'll talk about music video assignments. And so you can see what you see on the screen now. This is actually a screenshot from one of our trumpet assignments from 2023. And so you'll see the list of the students there and the student submission. So, whether you want to see, hand position, posture, embouchure, you can specify that to your students on the angle that they're recording at so that you can see everything that you need to see for that. If you want them to be able to view music on their device, then you can just add that as an attachment during the assignment creation process. But ideally, the students will just have the music on their music stand that they're reading from wherever it is they're doing their assignment at. So some other things in here. Yes, I put down here that this ensures that the student is the actual person performing the music. Yes, during my career, when we used to only do audio submissions, there were unfortunately some times where I discovered that old John sounded so much better than I had ever heard him before, only to discover that it wasn't actually John that did the audio assignment. However, if it's a video assignment, it makes it a lot easier to help ensure that it is the student that you're wanting to hear. And same thing, since this is marching band, we just talked about like auditions as well, whether you want to have them, moving or doing something else just to ensure that it is the student that is doing the performance. And then one of the ones that is the software was never intended for this until we just realized it would work really, really well for this. There's a lot of visual assignments. And so the ability to do any type of like marching band fundamental exercises, whether it's like a box drill or a plus drill or like a point exercise or 50-50 or mark time or anything like that, in order to help train your students ahead of time. I know I talked about this at a presentation we did about a month ago at one of the DCI shows, where the students can do everything ahead of time in preparation for starting summer band. Obviously, I think most people are already kind of up and running with marching band now, but for the future, if you want to do any type of preemptive teaching, if you want to add a YouTube link into the assignment details and the instructions, all the student has to do is when they get the assignment on MuseClass for them, they will see that link. It automatically turns it into a hyperlink and say you want to teach them about how you want them to do mark time. And so you can create a short little video, or you can just search for something that is already on YouTube. You just copy and paste that link into the instructions, and then the students, all they have to do is tap on it, and then it will start playing on their device that they're doing their assignment from. And so some other things, whether you want to do some preemptive teaching that way, or once you kind of get going during the marching season and you want them to do something for a pass off or for a grade or something, let's do 7 count tones descending on a box drill starting on concert F. And then you tell them the tempo. And as you see here on the screen, there is also a built-in metronome. So the student does not need multiple devices to be able to do that. So this has been something, again, this is yet another assignment from our trumpet section in 2023 at the Bluecoats. In between camps, between the audition camps that happen in the winter and then throughout the spring. This is how we stay up to date with our students to make sure that they are ready to go by the time we move in together in May. So we can do a lot of extra, just simple visual exercises or any type of other technique. Again, just trying to continue to hold the students accountable, because that's one of the best things to ultimately lead to their success, making sure they understand and can achieve the things that you are asking your students to do. Let's see, I see another red dot. Looks like Chase has already answered some of that. All right. And then getting close to kind of wrapping some things up here. We may have talked about this briefly last week in a similar type idea. The use of backing tracks has been huge. I know we do have a number of color guards that use this as well. And even in the assignments we were just talking about before, some of those visual assignments, since dance has become such an important part of the marching arts activity, You may have some type of dance movement routine that you ask your students to learn to a certain song. And so you can just upload an MP3 file. Again, this is all during the assignment creation process for either an audio or video assignment. And you can attach an MP3 file as a backing track. And when the student presses record on their device, it'll count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then the backing track will then begin playing for them. So they can do, if they're in the color guard, they can do their flag, rifle, saber work. If you want them doing dance, whatever type of dance routine it is that you may want them to be able to use. So it's just another great way that you can easily assess your students. They can do it on their own time, and you can grade it on your own time. So just a couple tips and tricks there on how to incorporate MuseClass into marching band as well. So I think that those are the big things that we were going to be digging in on today. It's just the use of AutoGrade, as well as how to use MuseClass with marching band. So I guess at this time, for the people that are here, are there any other specific questions? And I guess for some of you that were here last week as well, if you have any questions on either the audio or video assignments from last week, if there's anything that we can do to help you all out.
All right. Looks like the group's pretty quiet this evening.
So then I will give a quick reminder that we do have one more of these next week on Tuesday, August 20th at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. We will talk about some of the other assignment types as far as the in-person, the worksheet, and whichever the other one is. I can't remember off the top of my head. We'll talk about some of the other features that are kind of hidden in there with MuseClass, as well as talk a little bit more about the music catalog, and then making sure that everybody knows how easy it is to get up and running on the student app. For those of you, if there wasn't anyone that caught last week's session, recommend that hopefully you use your school teacher email address for your teacher account at museclass.com. And if you wanted to kind of play around to see what it looked like for your students, please use a personal email address when you download the student app and there. You cannot use the same email address as both a teacher and a student. And I see a question has come in here. So did you say you can use it with Essential Elements Interactive? As of right now, we do not have any type of some of the backing tracks that are included with Essential Elements Interactive. We don't have those all connected just yet, or just the Essential Elements book. There's MuseClass. Yes, so hopefully that answered your question there. And,
awesome.
Yep.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think with that we can call it a night. Bob, thank you so much for joining us again. Always great to have you. And thanks for everyone that attended. As Bob mentioned, one more class next Tuesday, August 20th at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. But have a great rest of your evening.